survey, like I said earlier, was that people were just interested in funding and impact and how do you apply for it? What do you do? How do I even get started? So hopefully this is going to be a really interesting session for everyone. So I will be quiet. We've got an hour and we've got time for questions at the end as always, but yeah, pop them in the chat wherever you like. But I will hand over to Nick and Michelle now. So you should be able to share your screen, okay?
Nick, did you want me to go first? I don't think we agreed who was going first.
Yes, I think it's better from your point of view with EPSRC funding to start yourself, Michelle. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me just do the dreaded screen sharing. People see that screen? Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Well, thanks very much for inviting me to join you and speak to you. My name's Michelle Lascelles. I'm part of the Impacts and Public Engagement team at EPSRC. And as part of my role, I look after public engagement and also the work we do on responsible research and innovation. So, yeah, so I'm just going to talk about, from an EPSRC perspective, what we mean by public engagement, why it's important, EPSRC's strategy and approach to it, and also talk a little bit about how you might include public engagement in your applications to EPSRC. Right, so what do we mean by public engagement? And this lovely avocado diagram looks very similar to the one that Aileen shared about an hour ago, so we're on the same page. But we always use public engagement as an umbrella term to describe the myriad of ways in which the activity and the impact of research can be shared with the public, and we see it as a spectrum from the traditional one-way forms of public engagement, such as a lecture or talk, through to more a dialogue, co-production, co-creation of knowledge, where members of the public and the researchers work together on more of an equal footing. Yes, it's really nice to think of it in terms of this sort of diagram, pulling out those different types of engagement. So all of those types of engagement are valid, and they obviously have different aims and values to researchers, funding bodies, and the public. We're particularly keen to see two-way public engagement, which ensures mutual benefit between both researchers and the public. Okay, so just a bit about our strategy. In terms of public engagement, EPSRC, our vision is to encourage the development of a research culture that inspires the public, attracts the public to STEM careers, and values interaction with publics in all stages of the research process. So just to say a bit more about that, in terms of inspiring, we want to contribute to ensuring that society is inspired by the contribution that engineering and physical sciences can make to life in the UK and the wide range of benefits it provides. In terms of attraction, it's about showcasing the range and desirability of STEM careers to attract future workforces. And interact, it's about empowering our research communities to collaborate and interact with society throughout the research process to achieve the maximum benefits from funding. As I'm sure you're aware, EPSRC is part of the broader organisation UK Research and Innovation, UKRI, and about 2 years ago, we collectively also published a PE strategy. And I guess at the heart of it, it's about trying to break down the barriers between research and innovation and society, and using our unique position in the landscape as a funder of the breadth of disciplines and sectors to try to support that and encourage that. So the strategy highlighted a number of goals which do align well to EPSRC's own vision and aims. So the three goals are to support a sense of shared endeavour by making research and innovation relevant and accessible to all, making sure the benefits of research and innovation are shared widely by prioritising collaboration and valuing diverse forms of knowledge and expertise, and creating opportunities for by inspiring and engaging the next generation. So in terms of our approach to public engagement, we very much have adopted, certainly over the last 10 years or so, an embedded approach to public engagement, in that we largely support public engagement through our existing research and training portfolios. So we encourage public engagement to be included on applications to EPSRC. And then we do sometimes have some specific strategic calls in public engagement where it's deemed that would be advantageous to do that. We're aiming to enable and encourage our research communities to design and deliver high quality public engagement. And we encourage and support a full spectrum of high quality two-way public engagement. By that, I mean that we, going back to the avocado diagram on the previous slide, that we encourage that full spectrum and value those different types of public engagement and the different benefits that those different types of engagement can bring. We really encourage considering and identifying and supporting public engagement across that full life cycle of research, and very much the emphasis is on adding value and fitting needs. So recognizing that public engagement can take different forms to achieve different aims depending on what the purpose of the engagement is and the specific audience. So just to think about how public engagement links into other agendas, which kind of helps to explain why it's important. I guess a key driver for public engagement is that it can enable research to be more accessible, relevant, and responsive to the needs and insights of society and users of research. It can help maximize research impact, particularly societal impact, and can be a really important enabler for responsible research and innovation. EDI and place are important considerations in the context of public engagement, and we encourage engagement to be inclusive and representative of the society it's trying to benefit. And it can also be viewed as an essential part of a positive research culture and an enabling activity for people and skills agendas. I've just put a few examples up here on the slide, just to try to show that range of the different types of public engagement. So at the top there, the Centre for Digital Citizens is an example of where public engagement is really strongly embedded in the research. It's a key fundamental part of it, and the research wouldn't really be viable without it. It's where public engagement is really about informing and shaping the research direction itself. Public engagement champions, of which we just heard from earlier, that was about funding a really high quality and inspiring program of research, but it's also about supporting those individuals, those people in their roles as advocates and champions for public engagement within their networks and communities. And then the bottom one is actually arose from a COVID rapid response call, and it's a really nice citizen science type project, which was co-designed with and for schools about establishing a network of air quality monitors in schools to better understand indoor air quality. And it's around providing evidence for policies and practice, but also about enabling people to interact with real world data about their environment and give them agency to take informed action. And two of the pupils involved in that were actually invited to a parliamentary event just the other week. So funding and applications. So as I mentioned earlier, we very rarely have specific funding opportunities for public engagement. However, all applications to EPSRC, whether to a specific funding opportunity or via responsive mode, can include public engagement activities. So if you're applying to EPSRC, you can think about whether or not you can include some public engagement in there as part of the program of work. Any public engagement activities you include need to have a strong link to the proposed research. So we won't fund what I've termed there as generic science outreach. We really encourage you to consider two-way engagement, to think about what the mutual benefit is to your activities, and to think about interaction, involvement, and dialogue with the public. We'd really encourage you to make sure you request resources. If you're putting public engagement into your application, and make sure you're asking for the funding that you need to carry that out. And then just a reminder that it can take place at any point during the life cycle of research. So some of you will be familiar with what applications look like for funding for EPSRC and for UKRI. These are the core questions you'll see if you're applying to EPSRC for most types of funding. So vision and approach, applicant and team capability to deliver, resources and cost justification, and ethics and responsible research and innovation. So you might be worried that you don't see a question there which is specifically about public engagement. I just wanted to try and pull out that actually there are places throughout the application that you can bring out and you can talk about the public engagement activities you're doing, and that will be relevant. For example, in your vision and approach, you're talking about how your proposed work is of excellent quality and importance, impacts world-leading research and society, talks about how you will maximize the translation of outputs into outcomes and impacts. And so, because public engagement can be, a real key to improving research quality, can help maximize the impact of your research. It's absolutely relevant to include it as part of your vision and approach. And depending on the scale and the motivations and the aims of your planned activities, that might be as a work package, it might be part of a work package, it might be fully embedded, integrated part of your vision or approach, or it might be part of your impact activities. In terms of the applicant and team capability to deliver, just think about, the people in the team, yourself as the applicant who's in the team. Think about the skills and experience, and think about whether you might need to bring someone else in who can help support the public engagement activities, or whether some training's needed as part of the research to help upskill people. Resources and cost justification. I think I mentioned earlier, absolutely encourage you to request resources on your projects. And then finally, ethics and responsible research and innovation. So if you think about high quality public engagement, making research more accessible and relevant and responsive to the needs and insights of society, then you can see that it's a really key and important enabler for making sure that research is more responsible. And so that's quite a nice place to include or to talk about any public engagement you're doing as part of how that is ensuring a responsible approach, particularly where you're bringing in a diverse set of voices and using that to think about how your research, the forward trajectory of research, shaping the research question, thinking about where the impact of research might be. So just a few things to think about, and I'm sure they probably echo what you've already heard today. So plan thoroughly, whether it's a small activity or a larger program. It always pays to think through what you're doing and how you're going to do it. So as part of that, really understanding your motivations, why you're doing it, what you're looking to achieve with it, what you're looking to get out of it. Clearly defining your audience. Who are you trying to engage? Why do you want to engage them? And particularly important, how are you going to engage them? And that can be one of the most challenging parts of this, is making sure that your engagement program is interesting, attractive, and that people want to come and be engaged and talk to you. We just talked in the discussion earlier about building in equality, diversity, and inclusion considerations. Think about how you might engage harder to reach or underserved audiences. Consider and address ethical issues, and particularly thinking about best practice in safeguarding if you're working with young people, young adults, and vulnerable adults. We talked a bit already about making sure that you have the skills and experience you need in the team. Partnerships can be a really good way to add value to a project and can help maximize impact. Thinking about how to engage your audience, sometimes bringing in a partner who has that ability to act, if you like, as a broker to the audience that you're wanting to work with can be a good way to ensure that's successful. I think Keely talked a little bit about evaluation earlier. How will you measure success? How will you know it's worked? And thinking about that as being something that's not something you just do at the end, but something you think of as a kind of continuous improvement, thinking about what you're doing, what's working, what's not, and how you might adjust your plans accordingly. And resourcing adequately, building in both the money, the funding you need, but also the time that you need to deliver it. There are lots of really good sources of advice and help for public engagement. I'm just going to flag the National Coordinating Centre for Public Engagement, the NCCPE. Their website contains a lot of guidance on how to plan, deliver, and evaluate public engagement activities, and also information around developing your skills. And of course, many universities have excellent in-house public engagement expertise and resources, and can be a really useful first point of call for any public engagement guidance and advice. And thank you, that's me. I'll stop sharing.
Thanks so much, Michelle. That was really interesting to hear the EPSRC perspective, but I won't talk any further. We'll pass straight on to Nick and we can have question time at the end.
Eileen, can I confirm that you can see my screen? Perfect. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Also from me, my name is Nick Venetsaneas. I work with the University Services as a research impact development partner on the topic of medical technologies, and also for the impact activities on the University of Birmingham led project, which is called West Midlands Health Tech Innovation Accelerator. I'm going to show you, and I'm going to talk about some stuff that we're going to clarify what is initially research impact, why it is, how to measure impact, what are the different methods and different types of impact, what is the importance to an academic or a researcher, why should they allocate resources and time from their side to show the impact of their work, and I will conclude with a very brief slide around the funding schemes, the impact funding schemes that we have in the university. Sorry for that. So, in order to understand what is impact, we first have to define it. I'm trying to, okay. Sorry for that. First, we have to define the impact, which actually is the effect and the change or the benefit that it has to the economy, society, the environment, or the public policy, the research and innovation that the universities are producing in order to help individuals, communities, nations, or the world. We have to clarify at this point that whenever we're talking about impact, we shouldn't mix it with knowledge exchange. And usually the impact is shown beyond academia, so outside the university. And based on the UKRI information they have on the website, the impact is shown in the world after 3 to 9, up to 9 years after the research has concluded. So more or less is what difference the academic research is doing for the community and the wider world. Of course, all these categories, the economic, societal, environmental, they have subcategories of impact around public policy, well-being, and commercialization, etc., which I have included here. So what is the value of impact for academics and researchers? First of all, you have to demonstrate that it's relevant to real-world evidence and changes in society. This is that your research addresses challenges or opportunities, and how the research highlights how this work influences practice, policy, or innovation. Second of all, an academic can build their own reputation or recognition through impact by demonstrating that they are leaders in their field and experts, and also by attracting collaborations either regionally or internationally, funding, and the media attention. Also, an academic can show that can demonstrate how it contributes to their institutional or university goals, for instance, with the global ranking or with innovative research across the whole world. So it helps the university achieve higher scores in their own research assessments, and also the impact aligns with the university missions to benefit society or industry or other sectors. Another aspect is that it helps the academics and the universities secure more research funding, because by demonstrating the impact of your own research, funding authorities and funding sources or investors, they increasingly prioritize these projects compared to other projects that they haven't demonstrated this impact in society. Also, the funders, especially private funders, they want to see that the investment has an actual effect in the world, and also it has tangible benefits. Also, I would say an additional fifth element to this table is that also in the universities, it helps with career progression, the academics, in a faster pace. So how do we measure research impact? There are different ways. Some of them, they are quantitative ways, they are quantitative metrics, and some others, they are qualitatively. In the quantitatively type of metrics, we have like the easily low-hanging fruit of surveys, patient questionnaires, number of papers or publications. Now with this modern, with the internet and modern world, we have also digital analytics, for instance, citations from a post in LinkedIn or other social media, or different types of counts from digital programs. For instance, number of podcasts viewed or YouTube videos. Other quantitative metrics are how many patents are filed or granted or licensed to companies, or how many companies have spun out or started up from a university environment. Also, other metrics is how many international or global partnerships have taken place through a certain type of research. Regarding qualitative metrics, we can name the research excellence frameworks, impact case studies, or 4-star publications, other type of qualitatively publications, the stakeholder testimonials, which I'm going to talk also later. Also very important is if there's any media coverage on the news or different types of online newsletters. Also for social studies, it's very important if you have blogs or podcasts around your research. Another important aspect is the policy influence. This is kind of tricky because usually when you're trying to have this kind of impact, it takes some time to show. For instance, if you are trying, if your research is around a startup that has started in a university in an engineering environment, and then you're trying to commercialize and sell or license the IP to a company, it's much more faster the impact compared to, let's say, the uptake of digital skills in schools today, and when they're going to show what is the benefit to society, which may take more than a decade. Other metrics are initiatives that they foster collaboration. Just like Michelle said, diversity and inclusivity is quite important. So with impact similar to public engagement, it's very important to start the planning from the very early stages of your research. So whenever you start to have your own findings, you have to define your pathways to impact. We then continue with the stakeholder mapping. Who is interested in your research? Who are you going to benefit? How many? Are there any stakeholders that you haven't mapped? So a careful and conclusive stakeholder mapping is very critical. Then you have to define what metrics you're going to use. Are they going to be quantitative for your research or qualitative or a mix of both of them? Which ones are going to demonstrate the change? And then is how will you evidence this change? How are you going to collect all this evidence that you need? You have to pay very close attention to timings. For instance, in engineering, we have an academic that is doing some research with around 18 different hospitals. And now, after kind of trying to capture his impact, he has to go back to all those 18 hospitals and find the directors and get the testimonies how his research was beneficial to the hospital environment, which means the timing is really critical because if some of your contacts have left, you have to strive more to capture this kind of evidence. Also, it's very critical around the confidentiality. You have to plan ahead, especially with medical research or some other defense projects or other kind of more secretive, I would say, research projects. So you have to think on the outset about your evidence, how you're going to gather the baseline data, the timeline, when it's suitable to collect the evidence. You have to plan ahead. And also, what are the expectations from your partners regarding confidentiality or from people who are going to give you the testimonies, especially in the medical environment. So assuming you have, you're trying to capture your impact, this is kind of a tangible example of how you collect your metrics and you evidence them. So of course you have the public engagement or the engagement, which is, for example, events or collaborations with industry or maybe charities with the third sector. And then you have to kind of form what metrics you're going to be needing. For instance, if it's a commercialization project, how many full-time employees are employed in this company? If it's a product, how many units are sold? If it's, for instance, for projects with the NHS technologies, how many savings or what is the revenue that the NHS is going to profit from this device, let's say? Changes in practices, reduction in resources. These are some examples. What is the reputation of the organization? Changes in your R&D priorities. And then is another critical aspect about the evidence. How do you prove this kind of impact? So some examples are like annual reports. Very critical is the testimonies. You need to engage early in order to capture the interest or the verbal confirmation from partners around the benefits of your research to their companies or to organizations or to society. Communication pieces is quite critical as well, to have articles in newsletters, newspapers, in the news is ideal. Alternative ways. Now we have a digital, as I mentioned, with the internet, there's more opportunities, easier ways to produce communication pieces. Another aspect around citations of guidelines, be cited in guidelines and policy documents. This will show also the importance of your work. Some evidence of that can be, they're already accumulated in some online databases like Scopus or like Google Scholar, so it's an easy capture. Another thing is around charities, to have surveys or to get feedback on changes in perceptions of people in society. So this slide it's capturing also what Michelle said. So whenever you're going to be doing public engagement in order to capture your impact, start early. It's very important to start planning from the initial stages of the project. Have firm plans, measurable, smart plans, so it can be easily measurable. Understand your audience. Because you produce a certain research, that doesn't mean that it's tailored to specific interests or companies. So you have to kind of place it and kind of try to show how your interest is going to be beneficial for them, or the need to target specific groups. Especially with the medical device and medical technologies, you have also to invite patient groups and get their opinions about a certain kind of research or device you are working on. Collaboration is a very critical part also, to have kind of partnerships with local organizations that will support your research, that will speak positively about your research, and also are going to enhance the reach and relevance of your research to different audiences or different geographies. And like Michelle said, in the end, you have to evaluate your goals. You have to reassess if some of your goals were too ambitious. What was the problem? You have to assess your outcomes regularly to see that you are capturing the impact and the evidence and the testimonies that you need, and also that you're on the right track to prove in long term your impact to society. This is a final slide that I have for the University of Birmingham staff specifically. There is an online digital impact in the intranet. There's a digital impact portal that we are uploading very frequently all the news about specific research and impact funding schemes. This is kind of an example of some of the schemes. If you go online to our webpage, you will find more in SharePoint. I will also encourage all the delegates of this workshop to go to their universities or institutions inside the intranet pages that you have and try to locate impact funding available to you. In our database, there's specific details around each call, when it opens, when's the deadline, how much, what is the size of the grant, context, and also we have the application form. So it's pretty easy to navigate. Also in the Digital Impact Hub in the university, in the webpage, you have plenty of information how to plan your pathway to impact, your route to impact, how to collect your evidence. So if you have no idea around impact, this is a very nice guideline to start from there. And then our colleagues in the university can help you thoroughly and with details on how to capture your evidence and any other questions you have. These were more or less my slides. If you have any questions, feel free to let me ask, and I can guide you appropriately. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick, so much. That was really interesting. And I think, yeah, that last point you said about everyone kind of going to their respective institutions to find their version of you, essentially, and like all the resources they have, because I think that's the thing. There's a lot of internal funding as well. I think that is available. That might not be as widely advertised, I think, as well, is kind of one of the biggest takeaways. So I think, yeah, for our conversation earlier around funding, that might be a great way to start, actually. And also, yeah, I suppose like speaking to someone like you as well to help the impact side of things. I think that's something people often forget is a really important part of engagement too, because we can, I think, assess ourselves how things go, but I think, yeah, capturing that properly is really, really important. So thank you both so much. Does anyone have any questions so far? Let me just scroll in the chat. I have one just generally as an intriguing question for Michelle around EPSRC. So how have you kind of, from your perspective in EPSRC, seen public engagement now, like the inclusion of it within funding change over the last however many years? Is it something that's kind of like exponentially increasing, or is it just like, how has that gone over the last few years? Is it kind of...
I think what's quite nice to see is perhaps more of a UKRI coordinated approach to it. So with the publication of the strategy 2 years ago, we also have a central UKRI public engagement team who are able to kind of drive some of this thinking from a from a kind of non-disciplinary point of view. See what I mean? So so some of the initiatives that they've done around, for example, community research networks, where they're able to drive something that's slightly bigger than we can as individual councils. But also, you know, councils being able to kind of work in the way that works for their particular research communities as well. I think the other thing, perhaps a broader point, is perhaps that recognition of the opportunities of linking public engagement with some of these other really important agendas like EDI, place, communities, responsible research and innovation, impact, and I think that really helps make the case for why public engagement is so important, because it plays such a key part in some of these other really big important agendas, and you know can really help drive, you know, research culture as well, things like that. So
yeah, brilliant, thank you. And Keely,
Hi, I've got a really difficult question for you, Michelle, and I don't even know whether there is an answer, right? But I'm just going to try and articulate the best I can. Okay, so we do know EPSRC's trajectory in your presentation, very, very clear that we can embed public engagement that interacts with the core research with what we're applying for. But what happens if that core research is more people-centric? Because if we look at ESRC or AHRC, okay, clearly the remit of EPSRC is kind of not in their area, and it's not in this area. And it's almost like, is there any overarching thing coming forward, or your vision of where you would actually apply for this funding? It's not completely public sector, it's not completely public engagement, it actually does have research, but the research is very much interdisciplinary. Or do you think it's all about building that very much interdisciplinary team and applying to your core funding area? Sorry.
yeah, so I mean, I would say, I think if you've got an idea for a project, then get in touch with us and we can try to think about where that might best sit, because it might be that actually it's something that might be funded across 2 different councils, for example, or supported across 2 different councils. It might be something that fits with something that the kind of the overarching UKRI central team are doing around public engagement. So I mean, it's kind of hard to advise in generalities. I think if you've got some research and you're not sure where it fits and it builds in public engagement or public involvement, and you want to see whether there's an opportunity for funding, then just put together you know, we have a remit query service, most of the research councils do, that you can go through that, or you know, just drop the most relevant public engagement manager or portfolio manager a line just to see where that might go. Some of the cross-cutting schemes as well that are coming out from UKRI, some of that might, you know, might fit into something like that. So that was the very general answer. But yeah, I think we're always open for a conversation. And if you've got a good idea, but you're not clear about where it might go, then just have a chat to us and we can see, you know, what the best advice would be for that.
No, that's brilliant, and thank you very much to Izzy, who's also put a email in the chat. That's wonderful. Thank you very much.
well, thank you. Jo, go ahead.
Hello, thank you. So this is a sort of a follow-on question really from Keely's, I suppose. Is there any scope for any sort of standalone public engagement funding? So I'm just thinking about research grants or activity that might not necessarily, the people doing a particular piece of research may not have thought about some aspect of public engagement, so they might not have put it into their grant application, they might not have costed it. Quite a lot of times things emerge as you're going along doing some work, you suddenly have an idea and think, oh, this would be a nice activity. You know, it would be great if EPSRC or UKRI, sort of the umbrella body, were able to, you know, divvy up small pots of money that people could apply for. Although I realise that does give you extra work because you've got to have people to, you know, to assess it, etc. But I think that'd be quite a useful thing to have. Thank you.
No, I'm really happy to take on board ideas and thoughts about, you know, how we approach our funding to public engagement. That is a tricky one, because, you know, projects change, things change and, you know, new ideas come on board. I mean, there is a reasonable amount of flexibility within our funding to take on new directions and to use the money in different ways. But obviously, if you're taking it from one part of the project, you need to balance that out. I mean, Nick mentioned impact acceleration accounts. So, I mean, it really does depend on the organization, how they're using that. But, you know, it might be worth talking to your own organizations if they have impact acceleration accounts about what opportunities there are for funding via that route, because that can be for, you know, furthering the impact of a project, you know, something that you couldn't have envisaged. Never say that word on a live webinar. And that can include public engagement, where that is about public engagement to further the impact of the research. But that you do need to have a conversation with your organization, because those pots of money are managed by the organizations according to their own strategies for that. So but it's something that's worth exploring as a researcher if you're, you know, you see a new opportunity to do something to further the impact of the research, you know, by involving the public. That's a route to explore.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's any other questions, do let us know. But I think while we're on this topic, I think obviously a lot of this is like very useful for personal reasons and whatever everyone's goal is here. But also I think as well it's important as well for anyone who's maybe in a managerial position or anything like that, because like I said at the beginning, often people find there's a disconnect with their views on engagement and their organization. So if maybe people, I think just taking all of this on board as well, and maybe seeing how you can instill some of this top down as well is really useful as well, even like whether it's just maybe taking this information and sharing it with colleagues, or maybe encouraging in your meetings to discuss impact as just embedding it in like your plans and like departmental strategy or whatever it is, or even like bringing up some of the EPSRC strategy and things like that. I think this is a good chance to, like, you know, take this and weed it into our own organizations as well, to kind of encourage it for people maybe who aren't here or who do want to kind of go into this field, or just add in engagement as well. And I think, like Paul mentioned earlier, if we can kind of weed it in generally to our PhD students or whoever. So yeah, that was just my 2 cents about us all trying to change the system and encourage this culture change that I think we all kind of feel we need within our own respective organizations too. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions, let us know. And I'm sure, yeah, thanks Izzy for putting that contact in, and I've put that email address too on the Padlet for now, so if anyone has any more questions in the future, you can let them know. And thanks Nick for putting that UOB staff link here. But yeah, like I said earlier, I'm sure your own organizations will have a respective impact.
Eileen, sorry, I cannot find in Zoom the hand.
That's okay. Just
the hand feature
hand is
anymore.
fine.
I'm more familiar with Teams. Yeah, I just want to add to what Jody was asking, that the universities have all of them now, especially in preparation for the RF 2029, they all have impact teams. And specifically in the University of Birmingham, we have one person allocated to each college. So these people have lots of experience. They can guide you if you want to apply for an IA, let's say an impact acceleration account funding. We cannot guarantee that you're going to get it, even for assuming you want it for public engagement, but we can guide you, can help you with your application. And also, exactly like Joe said, I think, and Michelle, there are sometimes unspent funding during the year. So in the end of the year, they are given to more impact or public engagement activities that we haven't figured out. So for us, it's just go forward, go ahead, do your application. You have nothing to lose. You only get experience, and this impact funding, they're going to be very healthy, beneficial for your research. So go ahead for it. Yeah.
Well, thanks. And another kind of add-on from me. So I am the Public Engagement Officer within SMQB, and even though we're talking about applying for funding as well here, even just how do you even add in funding, like, you know, to your application? So you can have help in adding this in too. So if there's a public engagement representative in your group or in your university, but also you can do public engagement to help your public engagement application. So you can talk to people in your community and ask them for help with your application too, which is like what we really encourage in our group as well. And getting them to go over your lay summaries to make sure they're actually lay summaries and not still too scientific, or asking that, like, do they have any ideas for you around public engagement, or is this something that they want? And then even if you consult the community and like you include that within your application too, and you're already showing that you're doing involvement and things, and like this is whatever activity you're thinking of doing might be like is proven to be useful, and like the community already says they want it, that is a really good way of, it's like pre-engagement for your engagement and helps you get experience. So yeah, you can use the resources that are available, and people will help you like with the logistics of including things in your application too. So that is there too. There's always help, I think, along the way. So don't be afraid to ask or reach out to people, and there's always someone within your institution, hopefully, that will be able to help you or answer any questions, whether it is then like EPSRC or whoever. So yeah, you can have help at every step of the way of the engagement, which is kind of good to remember as well. There's no other questions for now. We could potentially wrap up slightly early if there's no further questions. But thank you again, Michelle and Nick, for doing this session. I think this was a really important session, and one that I really wanted to include from the very beginning, as it's such an important part, and hopefully people took a lot away from this now. So thank you again for joining. And I'm just going to very quickly share a final slide and also a link here for you. So I'll just pop this in the chat. So this is just a link to one of our feedback forms, because we did this event and we do actually have a little bit more funding available too. So we're hoping to do something else on the back of this. But again, we want to do something that is useful for you. So if you could just take a couple minutes to give us a bit of feedback on this event, and then tell us what you would like after, if it's more specific training, anything specifically, or anything, just let us know. There's a QR code here as well. And yeah, so I hope this day has been useful for everyone, and probably a little bit glad we can wrap up a little bit earlier too. Thank you to all of the speakers. It's been so lovely to hear you all speak, and I know that you're all so busy, but hopefully this was a nice day winding down to Christmas, hopefully, for everyone, and I think a really useful one as well for everyone. So thank you all so much for taking the time to be here today. And I know, yeah, it can be a lot sometimes, but like I've said a million times now, so there's that Padlet is available, and everything from today will be on our website. Hopefully, if IT doesn't close down too soon, we'll get things up this week. If not, it will definitely be there in January, when we have all the recordings from the session, all the sessions today. And any resources that anyone had, or anything people mentioned, they'll either be online, or we'll post them all on the website too. So you have all of that there for you to like browse at any point. And if you missed the other sessions at the beginning, or were at the kind of alternating workshops, all of those will be there too, along with their slides, and they will be all on our website. But we just hope today was really useful for everyone, and you kind of had the opportunity to meet people and potentially like have some connections and links, and maybe have some brainstorming ideas, and maybe contact someone who had a similar idea in the future. So please do keep in touch. If you have any upcoming events or anything you do want to share, let me know. We kind of want to keep this momentum going, and hopefully get a bit more action going in the computer science community around engagement. So yeah, tell us anything, and we'll hopefully do another kind of event, whether it's training or anything, in the new year, because yeah, we want to maximize all the funding we have on this project too, and spend every penny essentially. So let us know. But yeah, I think that might be everything. I don't know, because we finished a little bit earlier, I think John may be currently on another course. I don't know if he is here to say goodbye. But thank you so much again for everyone. I hope you have a lovely Christmas, and are have lots of relaxation, and don't work on any engagement funding over Christmas. I feel like everyone needs a break. Take this, think about it, and start again in the new year. But yeah, I won't keep you any longer. Everything will be online. Email me if you need anything, is the moral of the story. But yeah, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Aileen. Well done for putting this together. It was fantastic. Really enjoyed it.
Okay, hopefully you all enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking with us for the whole day too. And it went smoothly. No Zoom crashes, which I was scared of. Thank you all.